Some of the strongest souls you'll ever meet are the ones who have walked through fire, smiled through storms, and carried pain so heavy it could have crushed them. But it didn't. Unknown. Let me ask you something. What if I told you that the person you overlooked, underestimated, maybe even tried to break, is about to become the most unshakable force you've ever seen? What if I told you that the quietest person in the room wasn't weak? They were strategically silent, surviving battles you'll never fully understand. See, there's a truth no one likes to admit. The world doesn't give birth to power without pain. It doesn't anoint without first wounding. It doesn't choose the loud, the obvious, or the popular. It chooses the broken and builds them in secret. You've heard people say, "You've changed," but they don't know what you survived just to keep breathing. They don't know about the mental battles you fought while pretending to be fine. They don't know the spiritual warfare that happened behind your smile. They don't know that you died and came back different. There are people, and maybe you're one of them, who were buried beneath betrayal, heartbreak, isolation, abuse, and abandonment. But somehow, you didn't stay buried. You rose, not polished, not perfect, but transformed, scarred, sacred, and powerful. And now, you're about to shock a lot of people. Because while they were laughing, you were healing. While they were doubting, you were sharpening. While they were sleeping on you, you were waking up to your true self. This message isn't for the crowd. It's not for the ones who had it easy. It's for the survivors in silence, the warriors in disguise, the black sheep turned leaders, and the outsiders turned architects of destiny. You are not who they remember, and they are not ready for who you've become. So buckle up, because what's coming next will be undeniable, and it will not be quiet. Number 1, you didn't just survive abuse, you survived being gaslit into believing it was your fault. You didn't just survive abuse, you survived being gaslit into believing it was your fault. That's what makes your survival so shocking. It wasn't just the pain, it was the manipulation, the confusion, the slow erosion of your reality. You were made to question yourself so deeply that at one point you didn't know if you were being hurt or if you were simply too sensitive, too much, or too dramatic. They made you feel like you were the problem when you were actually the target. And that kind of psychological warfare, it doesn't leave visible scars. It leaves internal damage people can't see. What people don't realize is how hard it is to climb out of something you were convinced was your own doing. They think surviving abuse is about getting through the hits, the words, the trauma, but the real war was inside your head. Every day you fought a voice, planted there by someone else, that said, "This is your fault. You brought this on yourself. You're not worthy of better." And still, you chose to fight it, quietly, consistently, without applause. That's why it's going to shock people, because they didn't see the version of you that had panic attacks in silence, the version that apologized for crying, the version that said, "I'm fine," with shaking hands. They saw someone functional, maybe even cheerful, but they never knew that survival was happening behind the scenes. They never knew the strength it took just to wake up and not give up. Every day you kept going, not because you weren't broken, but because something deep inside you refused to stay that way. Now that you're coming into your power, people will be confused. They'll say you changed. But the truth is, you finally got free. You didn't just survive abuse. You escaped the lie that you deserved it. And that's what makes your survival not just powerful, but revolutionary. Number 2, you mastered the art of walking through hell without telling anyone you were burning. You mastered the art of walking through hell without telling anyone you were burning. That's the part that people never understood about you. They saw you show up, smile, laugh, work, give, and support others, and they assumed you were fine. But deep down, you were barely holding yourself together. The truth is, you were in pain, but you got so good at hiding it that even the people closest to you had no idea how bad it really was. You didn't talk about it because you didn't think anyone would understand. Or maybe you tried once and got dismissed, so you stopped trying altogether. You learned how to be functional in dysfunction. You kept pushing through even when your heart was shattered, even when your mind was exhausted, even when you felt completely alone. You trained yourself to smile when you wanted to cry, to say, "I'm okay," when you were screaming inside. Not because you were trying to be fake, but because you had no choice. There was no safe space to break, so you became your own safe space. You carried yourself through storms while pretending there was no rain. That's what people didn't see. They didn't see you show up to work after crying all night. They didn't see you take care of everyone else when no one was checking on you. They didn't see the nights you laid awake with your thoughts racing, or the mornings you dragged yourself out of bed feeling completely empty. You made survival look so normal that no one questioned it. And now, when you start shining, when you begin rising, when the weight finally lifts, people will be shocked. They'll wonder how you made it through. But the truth is, you didn't just survive. You mastered survival so well it looked like strength, but it was pain, it was fear, it was loneliness. And still, you kept walking, through all of it, quietly, relentlessly, without recognition. And now that you're stepping out of that fire, they'll finally see what it really took.